Khamzat Chimaev is one of the baddest dudes that I've ever come across. Nobody wants to fight this guy. Everybody wants to get out on social media and say this and say that. Oh, blah, blah, blah. But when it really comes down to it, nobody's trying to fight Khamzat Chimaev. You should look at a guy with as much hype and as much bravado as Chimaev has as a huge opportunity.
Are guys afraid of him?
Yeah, 100%. Hopefully this week we'll have an opponent for him.
Okay, what do you guys think? Do you guys think that fighters are turning down Khamzat Chimaev the way Dana is saying here? Do you think like everybody's scared of him? I wouldn't say everybody. I do think maybe Neil Magny, like guys who are around Khamzat's ranking, are definitely going to want to take up that kind of fight because there's not much downside of fighting Khamzat when you're like number 10 or number 9 and he's number 11. I could understand guys like Gilbert Burns or Colby Covington and some of these guys who are ranked in the top 3, even in the top 5, who are going to be a bit more hesitant to fight Khamzat at this point because he's not even in the top 10. And even Gilbert Burns later said the exact same thing. He would like to fight Khamzat, but not at the moment because he's not even in the top 10. But at the same time, man, there's so much to gain. So I could definitely see a lot of fighters who are turning down Khamzat Chimaev. Everybody knows how good Khamzat is. Fighters know fighting. They know a good fighter when they see them, no matter if they want to admit it or not. Every fighter knows, from the champion to number 15, they know Khamzat is the real deal. And the fact he has that number 11 ranking next to him gives fighters a logical excuse to not fight him. But as soon as he makes it into that top 5, no one can run away from him. And they honestly shouldn't want to. Khamzat Chimaev brings a lot more to the table than just trying to fight your way up to a title. There's a lot of money and fame to gain when you fight Khamzat Chimaev. More casual fans are going to know who you are if you beat him, and it's just generally going to help your pockets at the end of the day. And at the same time, the UFC is of course going to be grateful to that fighter who took up the Khamzat fight and give him probably an easier road to that title shot. Because they also want to capitalize on that moment, right? A guy who beats Khamzat Chimaev, and let's say he finishes him, they're going to capitalize on that and build up on the guy who beat Khamzat. At the same time, and there's a lot of risk. But the interesting thing that Dana said here was that hopefully there is a fight that they can line up this week. This must mean that there is a fight that they're looking at, and this kind of promotion is going to set the tone as the guy who fights Khamzat Chimaev is the real deal. He was the guy that wasn't scared. Everybody else did not want to fight him. And of course, Dana is promoting here. When he says this, he's promoting Khamzat Chimaev and his opponent that's going to take up that fight. In a way, it's also going to encourage fighters to fight Khamzat because they want to be the guy who stepped up to fight Khamzat. Everybody else turned him down. Everybody else is running away. Dana's sending out the signal. Who's going to be the guy? So this is going to be running on fighter pride. Everybody else is scared, but this guy wanted to fight Khamzat. He is also the real deal. Give him his respect. That's the kind of promotion going into this right now. And it's absolutely great promotion. I mean, both guys are going to elevate because of it. A lot of people are going to be hyped up for it, whoever it is. It could be Neil Magny, it could be Gilbert Burns, it could be Nate Diaz, Tony Ferguson, Colby Covington, whoever it is definitely going to raise their stock just for taking up the fight. And I 100% agree with Dana White when he says that when a fighter has a level of hype, the type that Khamzat Chimaev has, there is a lot to gain to take up that fight against him. Of course, if you go and win, you steal some of the hype, the casual fans are going to know who you are, but it also does run with this sort of risk that, Khamzat is not in the top 10. If a top 5, top 10 guy loses to him, they suffer a massive fall on the rankings, making it much harder for them in the future to get closer to that title shot. But this level of promotion is pushing Khamzat Chimaev to fight one of those top 10 or top 5 guys, leaving some of them with no choice. And we have seen some guys like Gilbert Burns and Tony Ferguson and some other fighters on social media go after Khamzat Chimaev. Neil Magny's been calling out Khamzat for a while, but for some reason, that fight has never come into fruition. Dana says that hopefully there's a fight that they could put together this week for Khamzat, and that is excellent news. The sooner the better. Everybody wants to see Khamzat fight, but I really wonder as to who they are looking at and who is really accepting the fight and not just talking on social media. Gilbert Burns was rumored to fight Khamzat. That news was going all over the place that the fight was in the works, and that was like 2 weeks ago. And Burns himself said that he will fight Khamzat. He'll take up the fight, but then he goes and says that he will not fight a guy who's ranked number 10. Quote, I don't think I'll fight him while he's ranked at number 10. I think he'll fight one more time, and after winning against a top 5 or top 6 welterweight, getting closer to the top 5, I'd fight him no problem at all. Top 10, I wouldn't fight him, but that's me fighting against myself. Top 10 doesn't make sense, but I do want to fight, so it's complicated. I've asked to fight Neil Magny many times, who was around number 9, and the UFC didn't want to give me this fight because of the ranking situation. So they won't even offer me Khamzat, but man, I want to fight so bad, it would be hard for me to say no to a fight. It would be the fight of the night. They would have to pay us pay-per-view money because of how great the fight is. We could stand and trade, we could grapple, we can exchange takedowns. I don't think he will take me down the way he took down Lee, but if he does take me down, that would be awesome. This fight would happen one day, not sure if it's this year, but I do believe it will happen next year. Unquote. So as you can see, Burns said before that he will take up the fight, but now is saying that he will take it, but not at the moment. Khamzat needs to elevate in the rankings before I fight him. So he's only going to fight a guy who's ranked at the lowest number 9. He specifically is looking at rankings more importantly than the money he can get and the fame he can get from fighting Khamzat. He'd rather fight Neil Magny than Khamzat Chimaev. I could respect it to a level, but at the same time, man, fighters don't have much time in the sport. Some of these guys like Gilbert Burns who aren't as known as some of the more popular fighters, it's best to get on these opportunities, man, because you're not really going to get these anywhere else. You can go and fight top 10 and top 5 fighters enough until you get that title shot. Do it the old school way, but they also have to know. Stars like Khamzat Chimaev and Conor McGregor back in the day, these guys are not going to be put on the same path. The organization is trying to push Khamzat Chimaev and not you. They're looking at Khamzat as the cash cow. He is the future star of the sport. That is who the UFC wants to build up. So of course, it's just smart to give someone like Khamzat a better path to a title shot than someone who has already fought for the title before and lost. Because if Khamzat can go and win that belt, the UFC can elevate to another level.